my fellow Universians, the state of the WWE is getting better, actually. I'm Chris Wolvie, the wrestling vlog who always tells it like it is. The first calendar year since Vince McMahon's ousting from the WWE and TKO has been a pretty successful, if not chaotic, year for the gold standard of sports entertainment. The Paul Triple H Levesque era began in earnest with an excellent WrestleMania 40 in Philly. And though I thought it a bit ridiculous at the time, the 2024 PLE World Tour turned out better than we thought. Who knows if WrestleMania 42 or 43 will wind up in London or even Riyadh, but I wouldn't bet against it. By the end of April, all the titles that had Raw or SmackDown attached to it were rebranded into World and WWE respectively. I still think the number of tag teams on each brand is a little short, but just one or two more should be sufficient. Good to see the Viking War Raiders return. Having Paul Ellering back as the AOP manager is good too, if only Akam and Rezar can break out of the Final Judgment's grasp and actually make something of themselves besides being Karrion Kross's attack dogs. Also good to see the Motor City Machine Guns on SmackDown, though them winning the titles did seem a bit premature to me. NXT went into a new era themselves, not only starting the trend of secondary women's champs, but finally reworking the title belts for men's and women's primary titles. Looks like it's NXT 3.0 now, and the fact that it's on a network TV should help its visibility a bit more. Also, holding live TV shows outside the Performance Center helps a bit too. After all, for a while NXT was considered the third brand of WWE, which made it more than just a developmental league. Perhaps it will be again in the near future. Speaking of, this was the year that the WWE's former rivals, TNA Wrestling, decided to sneak into NXT and check things out. Not only did the then TNA Knockouts champ invade the Royal Rumble again, but a number of men came in too. Everyone was freaking out over Joe Hendry's appearance. Hammerstone was an interesting call-up, and the Rascals helped push Wes Lee into full-on heeldom. Who knows if there will be a repeat in 2025, if at all, but if there is, don't be surprised if a merger doesn't come soon after. The one thing the WWE squandered was the King and Queen of the Ring. Sure, I knew that Gunther and Nia Jax would win, and that they would parlay that into winning the primary titles, but it almost seemed like no sooner did they get the title shot, than they just abandoned the King and Queen titles altogether. We only saw each of them with the crowns on the shows once after the tournament finals. After that, it was like those expensive-looking headgear meant nothing to them. Maybe they should go back to giving the crowns to those who need a push, and who will wear them for at least a few months. Cody Rhodes' story continues as the grandson of a plumber keeps the WWE title close to the vest. He hasn't defended the title in front of cameras too much, though still more often than Gunther in the World Heavyweight Championship. As I keep saying, I doubt either champ will break Roman Reigns' modern record. In fact, the chances of Kevin Owens taking the WWE title just went up with the inclusion of the ladder match at Royal Rumble. At least we know that Rhodes won't be trying for a three-peat as Rumble winner. As for Gunther, looking for a worthy opponent is getting harder, I think. If a Raw superstar wins the Rumble, that may be the best chance to bring down the Reign General. As for the women, while the World and WWE Women's Championships seem to flourish, the Women's Tag Team Championship seem to be stagnating. Like I said last week, either Bianca Belair or Naomi needs to confess to beating up Jade Cargill in a fit of jealousy, turn on the other, and trash the belts once and for all. With the women's IC and US titles coming to be, there are too many belts for the too few women. Also, with Nia Jax taking on a new lackey in Candice LeRae, I do hope Tiffany Stratton finally gets to use that Money in the Bank contract. Or, just maybe, she's waiting to be the first woman to cash in at WrestleMania. Could be. But the best way we know that WWE is thriving is that AEW seems to be wilting. Lack of attendance and the cancellation of one of their TV shows are plaguing what seems like the last best hope against the WWE juggernaut. And with so many people from AEW jumping to the WWE, like Cargill, Ethan Page, the Machine Guns, Chris Jericho's pride and joy is starting to falter in its steps. Did the departure of Cody Rhodes 3 years ago really affect him this badly? And it only took until now before the cracks started showing? Only time will tell, again. But having competition is what makes WWE better in the long run. During the time between the buying of WCW and the emergence of TNA, the WWE were flailing. And between TNA Impact's shrinking down and AEW's sudden and successful appearance, it was the same thing. I actually hope the best for AEW in 2025. Somebody has to keep the WWE on their toes. All in all, it's been a pretty good year for the WWE. And with all 3 shows moving to greener fields, either already or in the very near future, we can only hope things get better for them in 2025. Otherwise, old Vince will be laughing it up in the slammer. I'm Chris over the Wrestling Vlog, who always tells it like it is. Happy New Year. Pray for peace, and I'll see you.